Hi everyone, Sienna from Yoga Mountain, and I want to talk to you about your feet and how to strengthen them and align them in yoga. So your feet have 26 bones, they have 33 joints and 44 muscles. So that's a lot going on in this small part of the anatomy. Now I did make another video, hey, thank you Charlie. I did make another video on how to release tension and start to grow some strength and integrity in your feet. So now we're going to apply that to yoga poses. When I was in my 20s, I was diagnosed with flat feet, which means my feet were collapsed, but also they were very weak. Like a lot of our feet are weak because we walk around in shoes a lot. So one thing that can really help is to expose the four corners of your feet, and then to know that you're walking and balancing your weight on those four corners of your feet, and then put it into practice. So the four corners of your feet are the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, and the inner and outer heel. So it forms like a rectangle on the bottom of your foot, a little bit more narrow at the heel. When I look at people doing yoga poses in class, sometimes I will see that they're actually rocked in onto their arches, and so they're only putting weight on the inner edges of their feet, or they're rocked towards the pinky toe and the arches are lifting and their inner ankles are lifting. So they're not balanced on the inner and the outer part of the foot. Other times I see people putting too much weight on the balls of their feet and they're leaning forward, and other times on the heels of the feet and they're leaning back. So any kind of disproportionate weight on your feet is going to cause an imbalance in your leg and your hip, and it will translate all the way up into your body, even goes all the way into the neck. So one way to expose the four corners of your feet, and I use this a lot to build my arches, is to lift the toes. So if you take a chair pose, or bring your feet hip distance, and you start to lift your toes, immediately it exposes the four corners of your feet. Primarily the big toe mound and the pinky toe mound, because you're lifting your toes. And as soon as I do that, I feel a lift of my inner ankle. Now watch when I release my toes, my inner ankle will drop and my knees will cave in. That's because I have flat feet. It's not like you're going to completely reverse that, but what you do get is you get to build the integrity of the feet so that your feet don't collapse anymore. So here I'm lifting my inner ankles, so I'm lifting my toes, and I feel almost like a stirrup effect, where the inner ankle and the outer ankle are lifting up towards my inner and outer knee, and I feel that supported. The more my arch lifts, the more I can push the four corners of my feet down. The more I push the four corners of my feet down, the more my transverse arch lifts. So it's a great situation when you're doing that together, that work together. So lift your toes, and next bring your hands to your hips and then sit back in chair pose. Now you're starting to bring in the strength and integrity into your quadriceps, into your glutes, your hamstrings. And one thing you want to make sure is that the knees are not going in or out, and that the weight on your feet is very balanced. So I'm checking to make sure I'm not weighting too much in the heels or the balls of the feet or the inner or the outer foot. Making it as even as I can when I sit back. And then when you stand up, you come to Tadasana, you can release your toes. Try to keep the arch with integrity so it's lifted. And then you feel that lift coming all the way up into your pelvis and into your heart. Now if I collapse my arches again, I even feel not only my knees cave in, but I feel my pelvic floor kind of let go. I feel my abdominal muscles release. I feel my chest drop. So all of that is coming from the dome in your foot. It's supporting this lift all the way up into the dome of your head. So hands on your hips. Let's try it again. Lift your toes. Immediately the inner ankles lift. Spread through the toes, which is really great to bring some more spaciousness to your foot, and then sit back in chair. Hold this. You might want to even hold this longer than a few breaths. So you can hold it up to a minute or 2 minutes. Then release the toes back down and come to standing, and see if you can keep that activation in your foot even though the toes are released and you've come out of the pose. Okay, so then we're going to do one more, which is going to be actually a lot harder. So I'm going to turn it aside so you can see. So here we're going to bring the hands to the hips and go up onto the balls of the feet. Here we're activating the strength in the feet, also the strength in the lower leg. And then we're going to take a bend without the ankles going in or out. So we're going to try to really keep the heels stabilized, spread the toes and weight the balls of the feet, and then sit the hips back. And then lower the heels back into that position we are just in, and then stand up. This is a lot harder than it looks. I'm not using the wall for balance, but you might want to, because I could feel my ankles shaking a little bit when I'm doing it. So I'm going to lift up. Again, make sure the ankles aren't going out to the side. You want to lift the heels straight up, spread the toes, press on the big toe mound or the pinky toe mound, and then sit the hips straight back as you pour the weight into the balls of your feet. Try to keep the integrity. I really feel the soles of my feet working. And then lower the heels down very slowly and transfer the weight back into the heels and stand back up. So you can also do this the other way, but it's also challenging. So you can sit back in your chair pose. I like to lift my toes just so I can feel the arches. Then I let the toes release into the floor. Now I'm going to transfer the weight into the balls of my feet to get the muscles of the feet working even more. Feel the quads working even more. And then I'm going to come back up. It's a little harder to balance when you do it that way. And then lower the heels. So those are some ways to strengthen your feet, to align your feet, make sure that they feel balanced on the four corners of your feet, and then to challenge that alignment through a simple pose that's symmetrical, like chair pose. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful.